Hello, and welcome to Phantom Zoned, the podcast where we dredge the lakes of hell in search of the worst the cinematic world has to offer and put it on trial for its various crimes against humanity. After we view a movie, we'll debate and explore the fine points of the film, and should a film be found not guilty, it'll be free to frolic through the fields of life for everyone to enjoy. If it is found guilty, it is shot into the far, far reaches of space, a phantom zone, if you will. I'm your host, as always, Adrian Torres, and joining me always is my good festive holiday friend, Scott Daly. How you doing, Scott?
Merry Krampus. Hey, Adrian.
That was terrible.
That's mean. I'm trying
Really
to be festive.
That was worse than Dan Haggerty as Santa Claus.
That's whoa. That's
Elves
uncalled
callback,
for.
man. Elves callback. It's that time of the year.
It is.
We're trying to get into a form of holiday spirit. I don't know.
I think we're going to talk about how close to a holiday movie this actually is.
Yeah. I guess we'll do that. Of course, we took last week off because it was the holiday, and Scott and I already suffered through the double stuffed turducken episode that we did last year. If you want to go back and listen to the madness, that was us covering Jack and Jill, and now I can't even remember what the other Adam Sandler was.
I thought it wasn't it the mall cop? Was it Paul Blart? It was not. It was.
Oh,
it
it
wasn't
was
Adam
okay.
Sandler,
It was Paul Blart and Jack and Jill. So they were both Happy Madison films, which was nothing but bad. And then of course the week before that we had the episode we were covering the worst movies of the year, and that was because we had a scheduling conflict. But now we are getting back to the exciting and fun thing that we are doing, where we are highlighting for the next couple months strong female voices, basically, whether it be people who are making films, writing about films, podcasting about films, hosting films. It's just, we're two guys talking about bad movies. We wanted to be inclusive, and we wanted to give back and highlight a whole bunch of voices that we appreciate and really like. And so we had Dee Dee Crimmins on, and now we have who to me is a wonderful, wonderful writer. We have Sarah Jane from Talk Film Society. How are you doing, Sarah?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good, I think. Scott and I will apologize here. Scott and I are getting over illnesses. And Sarah Jane, you said you're afflicted by allergies?
Yes, so I have a hanky next to me. So if I have to blow my nose, I'm sorry.
This is great company for such a wonderful and sterling film.
Yeah.
At least we're in agreement for that, I guess. Sarah Jane, walk us through some of the wonderful things that you do at this website.
I have 3 columns now. The Overlooked and Underseen, which just had its year anniversary last month, where I talk about films that are, overlooked and underseen. I have a column called Saturday Afternoon Kaiju, where I talk about, Godzilla, Gamera, Daimajin, things like that. And I just started another one about sexploitation movies called Sexcellent, which is my trademark, Sexploitation with Sarah Jane. And that just came out yesterday, as a matter of fact. So check it out.
In addition to those, I don't know if you'd say that it was your most read thing, but I know that it was the thing that got a lot of traction around the internet, and that I wanted to highlight for people who are listening to definitely take a look and see, because I know that we had talked a couple times after your thing came out, and that I was like, thank you for writing something about this. It's really important. But she wrote 2 articles that were about going to the theater. One of them was called Why I Stopped Going to Movie Theaters, The Death of Etiquette. And the second one was Why I Still Can't Go to Movie Theaters, The Loss of Safety. And they are very important articles, I think, that highlight a lot of aspects that either people overlook, don't really think about, or that way too many people suffer when they're going to movies. And they're very important articles, and they're absolutely fantastic. I mean, everything that she does is fantastic, but these are 2 special pieces I'd say. Would you agree with that?
I think so. They, like you said, they're certainly the most popular things that I've written for that website. So you can find them there or on my Twitter. They're actually attached to my moments if you want to read them. Yeah, I felt like I had to write that second article when all the stuff came down with Devin Parisi and Tim League at the Alamo, because that was the only place that I could go see a movie. And I got a lot of backlash, like, just get over it, grow up, be an adult. But I just felt I could not go see a movie without having major anxiety because of that thing that happened to me, when King Kong came out. And so I just wanted to write about the joy of the first article, the joy that I felt when I saw, I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I cried at the credits, not only because I love Groot, but I was just so happy that I could see a movie on the big screen. I've loved movies ever since I can remember. So I was actually getting to see my thing. And so I felt, I was driving home because it's a 2-hour journey there and back for us to get to an Alamo. And so I thought about it on the way home, and I asked the editors, Matt and Marcelo, could I write a personal essay? And they're like, go for it. So there you go.
Scott, have you read them?
Yeah. No, I read them before I knew that you knew Adrian. And I absolutely loved both those essays. Thank you very much for writing them.
Oh, no problem. I did hear, this was before the Barasi thing and the Tim League thing, but I heard from so many managers of the Draft House. Walter Chaw contacted me, invited me to dinner. And so, we're on friendly terms now. Somebody that runs the Phoenix Alamo reached out to me, El Paso. No one from Austin contacted me specifically, but I did get a lot of nice things from Alamo people, so I felt good about that.
I'm glad to hear that. Have one that's literally 15 minutes from where I am, and I host there all the time. So it's one of those that I always hope that so many of the other Alamos will reach out and treat people the way that I know that the staff at this one does. So
right.
Yes. But I just wanted to highlight that because it was great. And also Sarah Jane, we'll get to where her or how to, find her on Twitter, but she is an excellent, always exciting follow. I know that you might disagree, and I know that if you post certain pictures a bit that you might lose followers, but
I try to announce when it's not safe for work, and I also try to do it later at night, because I do have followers that have said, if you let me know, I'll put you on mute while that happens. And then, yes. That's fine. I know not everybody wants to see boobs. So.
Wait, what? This is news to me.
Scott's doing a great job. But of course, I'm sorry, Scott, we're going to stop talking about, I guess technically we're not going to stop talking about boobs for a minute.
Oh, no, we are not.
We're going to be moving on to the movie. To get into the holiday spirit, we thought that we'd, see if there was some terrible holiday movie, which of course there was. And if you go onto Amazon Prime and you put in the word Krampus, you will be, I don't know if you'd say excited, but surprised to find at least 6 or 7 different titles. That's including the Krampus that just came out a couple of years ago. No, we are not talking about that one tonight. We are talking about Krampus, The Reckoning, a movie that came out in 2015. I knew nothing about the film. I'm guessing that you guys were basically the same.
I didn't even know of his existence until you told me that that's what we were watching.
There you go. The interesting thing about it is if you go onto Amazon Prime and you put in Krampus, when you see all these titles, save for the actual Krampus that came out in theaters, they all have vaguely similar cover box art. And that they have the demonic face that either has a Christmas or outdoor setting behind the demon. And the font is usually very close to the same. Krampus, The Reckoning, like I said, is a 2015 film directed by Robert Conway, who hasn't done a lot of films. But the strange thing is, the next year in 2016, he directs a film that's called Krampus Unleashed, which has no connection to this film whatsoever.
He didn't get that Krampus bug out of his system. Took two movies.
That one is weird because it mentions the fact that Krampus has been asleep for 1,000 years. And I'm like, you just directed a movie the year before that dealt with Krampus, and now you're making another Krampus movie that's not directed to the other one? I can't think of many other directors that have done that.
Yeah, where's our Krampus cinematic universe?
Yeah, exactly. That's what Scott wants. Scott, because you like numbers, this film has a 2.3 on IMDb, and it's with 996 people voting.
Not a lot of positive response to this movie. I'm shocked. Shocked.
Yeah, it should. I thought it was going to be a world beater. IMDb's plot synopsis is Zoe, a strange child, has a not so imaginary friend, Krampus, who is the dark companion of Saint Nicholas. Kind of fits there. The one that I like even more is the Amazon description, which says Zoe is a strange little girl with a not so imaginary friend, the Krampus, who is the dark companion of kindly old Saint Nicholas. The Krampus has been unleashed upon a small town, and the legendary demon will seek out all the naughty people to punish them at Christmas time. No one is safe as the Krampus hunts them down, tortures them, and then drags their helpless souls to the depths of hell.
It's very dramatic.
Did they get that from watching the movie? Because I didn't.
That's what happens to us, strangely, Sarah Jane, is the majority of these films, when we read their descriptions, they are not describing the movie that takes place.
I bet it was written by Robert Conroy, auteur himself.
Probably. Do you mean Robert Conroy, who made sure to hire his own brother for a small part?
Yes, it seemed like there was many Conroy. I didn't look at the credits too closely, but there was more than one Conroy on that set.
Yes, I can probably agree with that. It very much seems like a family affair. You're in for an interesting time when your movie begins with the color orange. I wasn't sure why it started out in orange. I didn't know if when the film was going to take place, knowing nothing about it. And it's just shot in this weird orange color with the grandma sitting at a Christmas tree talking to her granddaughter, mentioning that it's almost Christmas time and is going to read her a story. It's a little disconcerting to try to figure out what the grandma's actually saying, because every 5 seconds the film is cutting to a black screen that then has the opening titles taking place, as well as some ominous music underneath, which if you put on the subtitles for...
I did.
Makes no sense. There's the refrain repeated over and over about snow on snow on snow.
It's a lot of...
And they live in Arizona.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That place is hell on earth.
Well, they mentioned at one point that it's the Maricopa County, which I know is a real place, but when I hear it, my brain instantly goes to Raising Arizona. And that was taking me out of the movie, and I'm like, I'd rather much, just stop this and go watch that film.
That's what we should have done, but
exactly, yeah.
Alas,
I'm with you.
At the same time that we have those opening credits, it then jumps ahead to what feels like a different movie, just with the way that's shot, because it's shot with a girl running through a field who ends up playing tag and then is staring at a dead bird on the ground, and her friend, who we never see again, is very nonchalant about everything and then very judgmental.
Ew, gross. You're weird.
Well, she starts out by saying, what are you doing over here? And then she's just looking at the thing and she goes, ew, gross. Don't talk to me anymore. It's like, wait, what? Why? And then she walks back home, sits down, and I got the first impression of how you know that you're watching a bad movie is when she watches that fake TV show.
Yeah, which they took time to film. I mean, they didn't just have the noise in the background. They took time to film these awful TV shows.
And that's always a sign to me is when a movie tries to say, oh, we're going to make something bad on purpose to have it be funny. And when that thing isn't funny and it's grating, you know that the people who are making the film don't actually probably know what they're doing.
Agreed.
I think that could be said, everywhere in this movie.
At the same time that we've got the bad TV show, we're introduced to the mom, because we have no idea who anyone is at this point, who says that the daughter tries to turn the channel for a second, and the mom gets really mad and tells her that she needs to, turn it back, and then banishes her to her room, and then immediately or sometime later, because there's no concept of time in this film, starts doing cocaine.
As you do. That's what foster parents do, right?
Exactly. Uh-huh. That's what I would do.
We don't know that they're foster parents at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't know because, we meet the mom for 2 seconds. She banishes the kid to the room. She does coke. She starts making out with her boyfriend or husband, because we don't know at the time, who's got a very, very red bathrobe that he's wearing right before sex.
Oh, don't forget, she padlocks Zoe in her room.
Well, she padlocks her when she comes out to see them, and that's as he's getting ready.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Boy, you're dirty girl. She should have been killed. Anyway.
if only it would have saved us a lot of time.
Okay, but I know we're gonna get into this, but Zoe's a ghost. I don't understand the entire setup of this movie.
No. The entire setup of the movie is flawed. It's everything about the film is flawed. But and we get it within this perfect encapsulation of the first few moments, because when the girl gets locked in her room, she opens up a tin underneath her bed and has a voodoo doll thing of Krampus already made. The first time we see something connected to Krampus, it already exists in the world. And she's got these 2 voodoo dolls that she made of her parents, who end up being her foster parents. And the Krampus shows up to kill both of them. And either one of you try to describe the CGI, because I can't wrap my mind around it.
It's like a PlayStation 2 video game. That's the best I got.
I can't. There are no words to describe how awful it was, which is probably why we only see him maybe twice or 3 times.
Yeah.
To me, this movie just seemed like they decided, let's make a horror movie, and then at the last second, it's like, you know what, let's make it Krampus. And then just stuck him in there because none of it makes sense.
I completely
agree. That's not the Krampus story I know. He doesn't burn people alive.
Yes.
From a voodoo doll. That's not how it works.
I think that's absolutely what happened. And I think if you look, this movie came out in 2015. The Krampus, the wide release Krampus film came out in 2015 also. This feels like they tried to piggyback off of something and changed to a Krampus movie at the last second.
Yes. So that might not even be a Krampus. That could have been some other monster. And they just called it Krampus.
Well, once we got to later in the movie and the film kind of in a way describes what's going on, I had one film series pop into my mind. So, Scott, I think you've seen 1 or 2 of these, but I'm not sure how many of the later films you've seen. So, Sarah Jane, I'm depending on you and hoping that you have, but Hellraiser.
Yeah.
This is going to open a can of worms because I don't like Clive Barker at all.
No, that's fine.
Nightbreed is I hate watch Nightbreed, but I actually have seen the first 4 Hellraisers, and they're okay. They're not my favorite.
Scott, how many have you seen?
I've seen a lot of them. I don't know. Okay. I'm getting it up on IMDb right now to see how many I've actually
Did you see
seen.
Inferno?
No, that one I did not see.
Okay, because that's the one that's got. Why am I blanking on his name?
Craig Schaefer?
Yes.
That's the only one I actually kind of like because he's so douchey.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what this is. This is a shitty version of Inferno. Because the majority of Inferno doesn't really feel like a Hellraiser film, and then they have the twist with everything that's going on. It's like, oh, hey, here's the Hellraiser world. Here's how it ties in, because all this stuff isn't really actually connected for a reason.
Right.
And that's how kind of Krampus is when we'll get to the hospital, but when they're in the hospital later on, I was like, they're fucking, it's basically a really crappy version of Hellraiser Inferno.
Well, did anybody, I might be jumping the gun here, but did anybody think of Zoe as like some weird emo version of Elizabeth Bathory? I mean, how is she living?
Kind of.
At first, because I didn't know she was a ghost. And they just kept saying, oh, she's been 12 for 30 years or however long it is. And I was like, what is she doing? Is she bathing in the Krampus blood? It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, none of it makes sense. And that's why I tried to write down as succinct as I could, like a plot breakdown, because there's so many scenes where nothing happened. Because like when Krampus shows up, he's literally there for 2 seconds at the beginning. He just stands in front of a guy growling, which causes his face to melt and then to burn, and then touches the back of the head. But it looks like he's stabbing the back of the head of the foster mom, and she burns. And then we get into a whole situation where the police show up and take her to...
Sorry, that detective makes me laugh.
Oh, God. Miles? Miles.
His acting choices are just wonderful.
Are amazing. Oh, you mean the guy who has a Southern accent only for certain parts of the movie, mentions at a random time, this is just like Chicago, even though we know nothing about Chicago, and the fact that the movie takes place in Arizona.
Yeah, he won me over when she asked him what was wrong at the beginning when they were at the crime scene, and he said, I'm bored stiff. It's your job to be there. It's a crime scene. I mean, come on.
Well, we meet him and a couple other people when they show up to the hospital for the child wing, I guess, because they've got children that are sequestered who've been in traumatic situations, just all in a room with one nurse. And several of the doctors and Miles meet together, because there's the doctor who works at the hospital whose name I don't remember. And then there's
English doctor, man.
The British doctor in Arizona.
Well, and why did they hire a guy that was bald that looks exactly like the detective?
Yeah.
But they just put like a woolly willy beard on him or something. I'm like, what? Why would you hire two people the same?
But
anyway.
my favorite thing about their intro is the fact that Miles ends up saying, "Oh, Dr. blah blah blah. This is Dr. Stewart," and she looks at him and she goes, "Miles," and then looks at the guy and goes, "You can call me Rachel." And he continually calls her Dr. Stewart for the whole time. And I'm like, she just said what her name was. And she knows you by a first name basis. So why are people not on the same page here? And I also had a bad moment, and my wife was watching this with me, and she came in a few minutes after this, so I had to stop the movie and pause it on Rachel to ask her an important question. And my question, that's going to sound really stupid, so I apologize, was her hair a style choice, or was it just messy because she has bad hair?
Well, I actually wrote down at one point, I thought at the beginning, I thought, oh, she has a bob and it's like really badly cut. But then when she goes to that house, she has long hair. And I thought, is that a continuity error or?
No, she has it because my wife pointed that out and was looking at it for a second. She goes, rewind it and play it. Now rewind it and play it. And she goes, she has it up a little bit in the back, but you can barely notice that it's in some type of weird bun. She goes, I don't know why her hair's like that. No one I know would do that with their hair if they're then going to have it down that way later.
No. Yes. She had issues.
Did that bother you at all, Scott, or no?
I mean, every choice she made in the movie bothered me.
Yes,
is she married to Robert Conway? Because she's like been in every single one of his movies.
She was awful.
She was terrible. She was so bad. Like I think I said to you, Adrian, that Zoe, the kid, is the best actor in the movie, which is
wow.
which is insane.
Wow.
That's not saying anything.
Scott, that is a bold statement.
I think it's the truth, though. Like all these, like the rhythm of their performances is so weird and stilted. The way they pause between lines, like I don't know if that's an editing choice or just the best take they got or what, but it's just so strange.
It feels like best take they got. And we also meet directly after this because, of course, she can't get through to Zoe. And her response when she comes out to the detectives and they're like, you could have pushed her a little bit harder. And she goes, no, we need to give her time. She'll open up when the time is right. Trust me. And I'm like, I don't think that the police are normally going to bow to the child psychologist that.
Do police stations have child psychologists on payroll normally? Is that a thing?
I think she got a call from CPS.
I guess,
I don't know, but my problem with her is if she was so concerned with Zoe, why did she take a phone call in the middle of one of their sessions?
Yeah, that was such bullshit.
And then be like, hey, by the way, that was my son. I adopted someone from... just the fact she has that whole conversation with the child that she's just met. She's like, that's my son. He was also a foster kid. I just hurt so much to see him in a world of pain. This beautiful angel. And so I pulled a couple strings, made some phone calls, and fast-tracked the adoption. I'm like, why are you telling this all to the child?
It's like, I know you just lost your foster parents who spontaneously combusted while you were locked behind a padlock in a door. But let me tell you about this kid that I love more than you.
The child who's at home and in the process of accidentally burning down the house because he got bored and hungry, so he tried to cook.
What was his name? I forgot his name already.
I have no idea. I didn't even write it down.
Lamar.
Oh, it is Lamar. Yeah. Okay.
It's Lamar because when it was the first time that I stopped and thought, and I was like, Lamar sounds like the name that you give to somebody when they're 14. Like you're like, I'm changing my mind. You're now Lamar. Like I've never seen a child who's anywhere between the ages of 1 to 10 that's named Lamar. Like when people become famous in the world, that I hear the name Lamar.
Yeah, I can see that. I went to Lamar Middle School, so there you go.
There you go. Sarah Jane, not to ask a personal question, but do you have kids?
I have one son. Yes, he just turned 7.
Okay.
I refer to him online as Kiddo, but his name is Jack.
Okay, so does the way that anybody reacts with or in the presence of children make sense to you in this film?
No.
Okay.
It's like, to me, it almost feels like this was and I don't know if you got the feeling, but it reminded me of a porn. I mean, that was the level of acting. I'm like, this is like cram porn, not Krampus. It was just, it was bad. So, no, they treated kids like they were, I mean, I try to treat Jack like he's an adult, or I try to talk to him that way and not talk down to him. But I don't treat him like he's from another planet. Yes. I can relate to him. I was a kid myself. But these people just seem like they were born to be, sad and 40.
Yes, that's exactly. And we get that in the next scene because directly after Rachel spends all of 2 minutes with Lamar, she's automatically on the phone with Miles, who's calling her while drunk because they give the impression and then they immediately dash it in the next moment that they've hooked up before. Or was I reading that incorrectly?
I thought at first I thought that they had a relationship, or at least that they had fucked, one or the other. And all I kept thinking through the rest of this movie was, please don't let them fuck. Please don't let them fuck. I don't want to see that. No. It was like my mantra. No, don't do it. Because, we had sex within the first 8 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh gosh, are we going to see it again?
Yeah, we already had one.
Naked.
Yeah, we already had one Wizoian sex scene. We didn't need another.
Yeah, God, that was shot really weirdly too.
Yeah. But then Miles automatically pops over to his house, or pops over to Rachel's house, and when he's there, she ends up saying, well, I'm not going to let you go home. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to take the chance. He's a cop. He already drove to your house drunk.
He did.
What damage else is he going to do? Is it going to get much worse? Sure, but he's a cop. They're going to cover it up for him probably. So she invites him in to sleep on the couch, but before he passes out, he decides to tell an incredibly confusing and depressing story about how shit his life is.
I totally blanked. I don't even remember the story.
That's what he's talking about, how his wife left him, right? I don't remember the details of the story. I remember his wife left him and kicked him out. That's all I got.
No, yeah, she kicked him out, and he says, she kicked me out this week, or maybe it was last week, or maybe the week before. I've been drinking so much I don't remember.
Jesus.
And then mentions that the lawyer came and served the divorce papers at the precinct. And then she asks where he's staying, and his response is, shitbag motel. And I'm like, you're a cop. You've got several people on the force. You have a partner. You could A, ask to crash with any of these people, or B, get a hotel room that's not at the shitbag motel.
Also,
it's not like you're in the beginning of the divorce process. She is not taking alimony from you yet. You can still stay at a normal hotel.
Yeah, I think it's time to get an apartment. If the divorce has gotten far enough along to where papers are being made, I think it's time to settle down.
I like shitbag hotels, so
there you go.
I'd rather stay there than at Dr. Rachel's house in her model home.
Yeah.
Everybody in their model home.
Yes, I don't know anybody that has an interior like any of the houses that we were in, except for maybe the one weird trailer that that she went. Was it a trailer? Maybe it was a house. I don't know, but whatever it was.
It was a house. It was a house.
Yeah, that I've seen, but not Rachel's house. No.
Yeah, in the time that Miles is sleeping off his however many drinks he had, we see that Zoe is talking to a male nurse who is trying to explain to all the kids, hey, Santa's going to come, so everybody needs to be on their best behavior. And the kids are like, oh, there's no chimney here. He tries to say that there is a chimney. Zoe, who's a smart child because she's technically maybe a ghost or demon or apparition that's lived for the last 20 years.
Who knows?
As a 7-year-old, corrects and says, no, that's a smokestack. The smoke comes up from the bodies there. She also senses that he is a bad man. And so when he gets home that night, and he gets onto a questionable website that we'll talk about in another couple minutes, but has
sorry, I wrote that down just specifically.
Yeah, we'll get to that when they have the big reveal of that. That's right. Takes the movie in a whole nother direction for exactly a minute and then drops it. But he gets visited by Krampus too. But Krampus is deciding that he wants to make things a little bit different, because here he starts pumping smoke through the house, has set a minor fire in the kitchen to lure Joe down there, and then grabs him and sets him on fire from the inside while also singeing his glasses.
That's that Krampus. Never know what he's going to do.
He's wacky.
I don't know what it says about me, but I clocked this guy as a schizoid the second we saw him. I was just like, This guy is doing something sketchy.
Oh, yes. Here, Scott, because we've been playing this game for the last couple weeks. My note on him is he is the love child of, I'm going to mispronounce the first name, but the guy who played Reed Richards in the Fox 2 Fantastic Four movies.
Owen Grafal?
Yes. He's the love child of him and Ted Raimi.
Wow. Okay. I can see it.
So that's how I knew he was not long for this world.
Yeah.
So
Ted Raimi.
He's also.
I would have taken Ted Raimi at this point.
He's also a Conway. He's related to the director.
He's the one that I was talking about.
And he wrote part of the script. So he's like, I'm going to play the kitty porn guy.
He says, technically, I'm hopefully people didn't say that because we're not to the reveal yet.
Okay.
Jerk.
Well, it's not. Okay.
I wanted to save that one because of how it flows in with everything. But yeah, he had the interesting credit of, it said, writing collaboration by.
That's always a bad sign.
I had never seen that before. And I was like, well, Krampus, The Reckoning, if you're going to give me one thing, this is probably what I'm going to remember you by. While Joe is a singed corpse in his kitchen, Rachel is trying to put on her detective cap because she's sitting in bed looking over the file and goes, name, Zoe Weaver. This picture's from 2 years ago, but she hasn't aged a day. Clack, 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 clack. And kid decides to get on the computer. I'm like, what child psychologist is like, let me put together these clues here. Something doesn't seem right.
What kind of CPS, though, doesn't realize that the same child has been in their system for 20 years? It looks exactly the same.
Well, see, no, you don't understand. The Krampus is actually a hacker, and he just removes the data.
He does, which I didn't understand because I was like, how is she seeing one thing on her computer and the other lady seeing another? Oh, here, let me refresh it. Bump. So it's like, what? Had you not refreshed it from the night before and you've just saved that window open? How is your laptop working?
Hacker Krampus was like, oh, fuck, I forgot about the cache. I got to delete the cache.
Did he log into the Dark Side's portal?
That was my favorite thing in the world. Dark Side's portal. You want to talk? I was going to say you want to talk about continuity errors. When Joe is walking upstairs, he has his iPod in that's playing shitty backing music. He sits down, takes out the earbuds, and the music still plays for another 2 seconds. Then when he's on the computer and he goes to the Dark Side's portal, he has a video that pops up, but he's still clacking on the keyboards, even though it shows the loading screen for the video.
He was just really excited about getting to that video.
He wanted to get into that deep, deep web, man.
So while Miles is then investigating the scene the next day, Rachel decides that she is going to track down Zoe's previous foster parents, who live in what appears to at first be a junkyard or the outside of a hoarder house. And we end up finding out, just as everybody's mentioned, that these foster parents had Zoe 20 years earlier. And that the person who was her foster mother at the time lost her husband when he spontaneously combusted into flames.
Okay, so I know horror films have to play stupid with their main characters, like, in order to keep the plot moving, but at this point, don't you just go, okay, well, that's it for me, I'm out.
Sorry, I'm just stunned by the plot holes in this thing. You know, I've been watching Mindhunter. Did they need somebody to go in there and realize they had a serial killer that was killing people for 20 years by putting them in flames? I mean, how did they not connect all these dots?
Well, there's so many dots that they don't connect, because in the next scene we see Zoe she's mean to a girl, and a nurse comes in and she's mean to the nurse, and then it feels like she's being mean to the audience, and we're just seeing that, I guess, to be like, oh no, something's going on with this girl, even though we were just told that she's looked like this for the last 20 years. It's like, just move things along. And their way of moving things along is to have Miles show up at the hospital waiting for Rachel, and has his partner come over and tell him, well, the boys at Texas got back the stuff. They found out some interesting information that we need to let you in on. And it turns out that the site that Joe was going on was child porn related and had terabytes of child porn.
You know,
terabytes of child porn on his computer, and the English doctor says, "Oh, none of us had any idea this was going on. He seems like a nice guy. We all thought he was a nice guy. We had no idea."
Come on. You knew, English doctor. You knew.
Cover up.
The thing about this interesting decision is I am now firmly pro Krampus. Like, I am on his side. He's taken out a child porn dude and some neglectful, terrible, drug-addicted foster parents that are just using it for the money. So I'm on Team Krampus. Go Krampus.
Okay, but why do we need the child porn subplot? Because it's never mentioned anymore after this.
Because
you literally find out outside the hospital.
Because collaborating writer Owen Conway wanted to write himself into the movie, so he had to add this.
Hey, not only am I going to be in your movie for 5 minutes, but my guy has to be a child porn collector. Well, I guess you're my brother, but this is really fucking weird. Where is this coming from? It's just important to me. We're putting it in the next Krampus movie, too. I will now watch that other Krampus movie.
Please do.
Just to see if there's randomly a child porn subplot. And I'm like, no, this is just a cry for help. Yeah. He's trying to tell people about something that happened in his past.
Oh, man. I am excited to hear if I kind of want to watch it now, too, just to see.
Yes. And then we get what I thought was a really weird moment where they basically have a yarn pro quo instead of quid pro quo, because Rachel comes in kind of being the Clarice of the situation, and Zoe is very much the Hannibal Lecter, and she's like, "Zoe, we need you to tell us, help us fit it into pieces." And then she goes, "I'll tell you everything if you get me my yarn." So I'm just like, I don't what?
Yeah, so she's trying to draw a picture of the other girl she was mean to's father, and then apparently the Krampus power only works with yarn dolls.
Not just like any, like she could have easily found another way to make a voodoo doll, but apparently it just had to be with a yarn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but later she got creative though, didn't she?
Yeah, she used a blanket.
Blanket.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's using the yarn thread from there. So
it's like a wool blanket. But it's just such this weird, random, like, it has to be yarn or else your magic Krampus power doesn't work. What?
Exactly. And then directly after this, Rachel and Miles decide that they're going to go to a bar and get drunk. They're both starting out by drinking beer, which that's just it. It's just beer. And then Rachel raises a hand and goes, "I'll have a Patron Silver." And I'm like,
that's so random.
That's very oddly specific. I mean, you could have just said tequila, but I mean, I feel really bad for Patron Silver if they happen to be a sponsor of this movie. And then Miles says, "Wow, you put that down strong. But here's the thing, lady. If you're drinking with me, you're drinking Jameson."
I don't particularly like tequila, but if I'm going to drink it, honestly, it's got to be Patron Silver or Gold, because the other stuff makes me gag. So when she said that, I was like, what? I don't want to identify with you. Gross.
Yeah,
so now I can't have it ever again.
All because of you, Krampus the Reckoning.
Yes, God damn it.
I can't wait till the people at Patron Silver find out about the kiddie porn scene.
We do not endorse this. No. So she gets up and goes to the bathroom, and we have a very awkward scene with this guy at the end of the bar being really skeezy. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Wait, I know you. You're the guy who's a drunken layabout who set fire to your house and whose daughter almost died." And I sat there staring at the TV and literally said, "Fuck you."
Oh, it's so.
Now, wait a minute, though. You skipped over the skeevy part. He watched her walk like she was, Heather Locklear. I'm aging myself.
Yeah.
Like she was the hottest thing. Like, I mean, and it was like 30 seconds of him like, "Yeah, I'm going to tap that. We're going to ball." And I was like, why? What is that?
Because he then has the weird conversation that at first is like, Well, I mean, he's kind of being nice in a way because he's like, "Hey, you got a good-looking woman there. Make sure that you're having a good time." But then he comes over and he talks more, and he's like, "Hey, if you need any help, I'll help you." And you're like,
Yeah, that's
you
fucking
went
weird.
from just being drunk and making weird decisions to being really weird, and then oh, wonderful, the girl that Zoe was mean to earlier and that she made a little yarn doll for is your daughter. Of all places in the fucking world, in this fucking town, these two characters just happen to end up in a bar with you.
for really no real reason.
No reason.
No.
And then Krampus gets even more magical powers because the guy goes back to his car to have a cigarette, sees Krampus outside of his car, and Krampus, just by looking at him, causes him to burst into flames inside the car.
I mean, once again, good job, Krampus. This guy was a total asshole.
Can I just make a comment about the bartender pulling focus every time he put the drink down? What was that?
Yeah, that was weird.
Was that Papa Conroy?
I don't know. I don't know. It was one of, but here was the thing. It was one of the shots I was actually okay with because there was something else in the frame.
Oh my God, are we talking about framing? The scene,
Yeah.
He kept cutting off everybody's head. I thought, you can make that stylistic choice, but he didn't know what he was doing.
No, because
Yeah.
there's only, and if there's more, then let me know. But there were at least 4 that I saw. There's the general wide shot where there's nothing else around, which is either just on a room in general, but there's nothing to fill the frames. There's a like medium wide shot of one person that's in the direct middle of the camera, and then there's nothing else next to him. There's a focused close-up of a person that's still in wide, so there's nothing off to the side. Or there's any of these shots that have a slight tilted Dutch angle.
Yeah, that was really weird. And like when they shot like coverage of conversations, one person was always closer to the lens than another in like in a really weird way. Like I don't.
In the bar scene when it's like an over the shoulder of him, and she seems like she's 5 chairs away trying to be sexy.
Yeah.
And then they, come around from her over the shoulder, and he's right there in her face.
Yeah.
I thought, why is she so far down the bar? This guy did not know what he was doing.
Yeah, and like again, like you said, there's stylistic reasons to make choices like that, but this is not them.
No.
And then Rachel and Miles decide to go back to her place and have a weird dancing scene where Miles literally has the response, "Oh, so this is dancing."
And all the while, please don't fuck. Please don't fuck. Please don't fuck.
I thought I was thinking the same thing, and I thought we were going to be safe when she went off to vomit. And I'm like, okay, that's totally going to kill the mood, but nope. They're still getting close, and then Lamar comes out of nowhere, and I was like, yeah, she just abandoned her kid for most of the day, went back to the bar, and then came home, and she's like, I thought you were going over to Jason's house, and the kid goes, his Wi-Fi was down, and I'm like, so the parents just let you go?
Everyone is a shitty parent in this movie. Everyone.
But just Lamar comes out for 2 seconds, just sees the two of them, is like, okay, whatever, going back to bed. And so he goes back to bed, and Miles is the one who comes to his senses and is like, I should go back to the shitbag motel. And this is my favorite moment, and I'm going to do my ray of sunshine here now, just because I don't know what happened. I'm going to try to find the clip online. I recorded it, but the audio is not great. I'll try to send it to Scott. If it doesn't work out, there won't be anything after this. But he and Rachel are talking for a second, and he says, I have to get back to the shitbag motel. Otherwise, all the junkies and the gang people will come around, and they'll try to steal my or they'll my.
I should probably get back to the motel. If I'm not back soon, the junkies around there will probably pre-paint die, big die, or something all over my room. Pre-paint die, big die, or something all over my room. Brain die, big die, or something. Brain die, big die, big.
My mumbles.
Yes, and if you have the subtitles on, it says they're going to steal my mumbles.
I wrote
And
that
then
down.
Bubba
Oh my
mumbles.
God.
But when he's saying it, he's not using actual words. He goes, "They're going to my," or they'll, and I was like, "What? What just happened? Why did I'm like, was the guy actually drunk on set and he just didn't know what words to say? He couldn't say my personal effects and my money."
I did. I wrote it down. I said captions on Amazon showed a lot of parens mumbles from the cop.
Yes, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like the movie just folded into itself for a moment, and I'm like, I don't know. That's how you know that you're like, okay, we got it. We don't know what happened, but let's move on.
Yeah, now it's like I'm guessing the Amazon caption people are like, Hey Joe, can you tell what he's saying here?
It said,
I think he actually just said mumble.
The Amazon caption people, let me just say, are the laziest motherfuckers because they do that with stuff that you can hear as clear as day. Because my husband and I will be watching. They were like, why does that say, what is it? Ineligible? No, not ineligible. Intelligible. They get kind of classy when they don't understand. But I'm like, he just said I'm going to walk to the car, not I'm going to unintelligible. Yeah. So they are very lazy. And Amazon, if you want to hire me to do your captions, please get in touch.
Well, there you go, Amazon.
That's why I love how they continually said sad music, ominous music, eerie music. That was it. That's how you knew. You were like, oh, okay. And there would be times, but they would keep it up on screen sometimes for what would be a minute. It would just say sad music, and it wouldn't go away because nothing was actually happening on the screen.
It's actually just the names of the track, though. It's just sad music.
Oh,
is the name of
that makes sense. Yeah. Then the movie decides that it's just going to throw everything at the wall because I'm going to try to get this right. So help me out in the process. So Rachel has a nightmare.
Sex dream. Come on.
It starts out as a nightmare because she has the nightmare flashback because she's got a burn on her wrist that she doesn't know how she got it. And so it flashes back to her reading a book with her sister about Krampus. And that's it. That's all you see. And they're like, hey, aren't we being smart? And then it jumps into Miles climbing on top of her to have sex. So unfortunately, Sarah Jane had to witness this.
The beast with two backs. Yes, it was. It was cramp porn. No.
Exactly, because it goes from Miles to being Krampus, who then decides to perform Kali Ma, and pull out her heart. Rachel wakes up, thinks that everything's weird, tries to take her medicine, runs to the bathroom, spits it out, sits back down in bed, sees that there's blood in the bed all over the place, but we don't know where the blood's from. Yeah. She runs out of the room screaming. She sees Lamar. There's fog in the place. Zoe is at the end of the hallway, somehow leaving the hospital and getting to the house. They then run down the stairs, get into her car. Rachel seems like she's going to pass out at any moment and is telling Lamar to be quiet so she can focus on driving in the road. Sees Zoe, somehow crashes into Zoe, who is actually an apparition who has Krampus behind her. And we have a shot that looks like Rachel and Lamar have died in the car crash.
Wait, now, where did she take the shower? Remember,
yeah.
she was all rubbing on her boobs. Which
sorry.
You don't shower
there
like that.
There we go.
She's sitting. You have the obligatory. I'm sitting crouched in a shower or bath with the water on me. Yeah, didn't that happen at that point somewhere?
Yeah,
or was that later?
No, okay. You're right, because that's directly after she vomits into the toilet. Sorry,
okay.
that was my bad. She has her Ace Ventura / Casino Royale / crying game moment.
Yes.
And so I forgot that. Yeah, she vomits, then decides to get naked and take a shower, and then cries in the shower, and then gets into bed and sees the blood. But Scott, you were yelling about the blood.
Sorry.
Yeah, because we never find out where that came from, ever.
No.
Like, at first I was like, oh, they killed the detective. And that would kind of been cool. Like,
No.
Yes.
but no, he's definitely still alive.
And what did the car crash into?
It's Krampus.
I don't remember. Sorry.
Like, well, no, because like Zoe's there, and it looks like she crashes into Zoe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
first
probably
of all,
what happened.
Zoe's not a brick house, so she's not going to be able to damage the car that way.
She's,
Second of all, we don't know if Krampus is there because we haven't seen him interact with any actual objects in the world.
well, that would be way too complicated of a
Right.
CGI movie.
Yeah.
Exactly. Think of the cheapest CGI thing that you've ever seen in your entire life. Now imagine something that's 10 times cheaper, and that's still probably more money than went into Krampus.
There used to be a commercial that would come on when we lived in Austin where it was two guys like playing video games. They're like, dude, we should do that. And then they're like, come to our school and learn video games. And it's the worst. It's like Pong. And they're like, look how cool we are. That's what it reminded me of. They hired those guys.
There was a show a couple years back on Adult Swim that was made to look like it was really shitty 90s CG animation. And like Krampus is on that level. But the difference was for that show, they were trying to emulate a really shitty style and make everything look like it was broken. There's someone out there who designed Krampus and is probably very happy with themselves and has the worst friends in the entire world because they've convinced him that he did a great job.
It was probably Owen. Is that the brother, Owen?
Yeah,
It
you're
could've
right.
been any
It
of the
was definitely
Conways.
Owen.
Yeah. Their younger brother designed him. We'll say that.
Yeah.
So she didn't die in the car crash. She's just in a coma at the hospital. But we then jump into either her subconscious or limbo or hell, which sees her walking around an empty hospital, finding a room that has Lamar shirtless on a table because he's currently being operated on in the real world. Then Zoe comes in and says that Rachel has to pay for that thing that she did. And Rachel has a flashback to see that everything that we saw in the flashback was actually with Rachel's family. And the girl that we saw at the beginning, that's her sister, ends up being Zoe. And Rachel, again, without an explanation, already has a fully formed voodoo representation of Krampus and then everyone in her family. How she knew to make the doll, we never get an explanation for. But she then decides to light a match, which causes the house to burn down, even though we don't see it. We just hear the screams. And
Too much money.
She lights the match and then immediately blows it out. And yet the house burns down.
Yet the house burns down. And yet we then see Krampus tackle her, which somehow causes Lamar to come back to life because the British doctor was trying to save him. And
in the worst way possible.
And just completely sucking at his job. And then it's just like, I'm going to do really bad CPR for the next 5 minutes until the camera decides to cut away to somebody who's directly in my peripheral, but it's going to cut to a wide shot of just this guy in the middle of the frame going, he's gone. You've got to call it. And then cutting back to the British doctor, who then is really surprised when Lamar comes back and goes, it's impossible. That's amazing. And
never get explanation for that.
No. But at the same time, they're like, oh, there's a code, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, Rachel. I'm like, how did you know? You're in a filled hospital. It could be any room. You're a selfish British prick.
Also, is there only one doctor that can, tend to every patient in the hospital?
Yes.
There's 8 attending doctors or surgeons in that room, but he's the only one who can go help. He runs to the room and pulls back the curtain and sees that Rachel is completely burned on the bed.
Yes. When that scene first started, didn't it look like Halloween 2? Not this Rob Zombie, that's awful, but the sequel or The Void. I thought, wait, where are we now?
Yeah. Because that's what I wondered. I'm like, is this just in her subconscious? Is it limbo, or where are we? What's the representation of this place supposed to be? But we don't know. And even directly after Rachel dies, we then see that Lamar is now in the children's wing, and it's Christmas Day, and Miles is really sad because it turns out that there's not really any good families that are interested in taking Lamar. So the hints that I thought is that they were going to go in a weird direction, but the film doesn't, because then Miles leaves and goes to Rachel's grave, which is already ready with a headstone and everything.
Yes.
And he says, "I don't know how to say this," and then says goodbye and gets in his car and drives away. And then the camera decides to pan away from her over to 2 people whose last name were Weaver, and then down to Zoe Weaver, to show that everybody died 20 years ago in the fire that you already learned about 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah, they treated that like it was a reveal, but it wasn't. We got that movie. You did not need to show us that.
So I'll ask you if you guys felt this, because it's what I thought they were going to do, which is just as shitty a version. And it seemed like maybe they had that idea, but they didn't know how to pull it off. Is when they're showing Lamar, and then they have Miles talking about the fact that, he's really sad to see that no one's taking him. It seemed like he was going to do what Rachel did and try to call in some favors so he could fast track to adopt Lamar, and have it turn out that the spirit of Krampus or Zoe has been resurrected in Lamar, and that's what caused him to come back to life.
Yeah,
well, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's much better written than they would ever do in this movie. So,
that should have been the second Krampus movie that he made. He should have picked up from there.
There is a moment when the Santa Claus is handing out presents that they focus on Lamar and the present in his hand. Yeah. And I'm like, he's gonna open that thing up. It's gonna be the Krampus doll. That's absolutely what I thought was gonna happen. But no, they just immediately cut away from that.
My note says, "What are they all getting? Tissue boxes? Because they were all the same. Yes. They were all the same size.
They're all getting shitty ornaments that they can hold on to for whenever they get adopted, and anyone who's still there the next year gets to put it on the shitty tree that they have over in the corner."
That's sad.
So let's just parse what Zoe has been doing for 20 years.
We only know of one other family that it's showing up online.
Yeah.
And the family was 20 years ago, which was directly after she supposedly died.
Right. So in the world of the movie, Zoe is killed by her sister, who then gets sent to another foster family or something. While all that's happening on, Zoe is coming back as a ghost and being adopted or fostered by people. And then
by one family,
and then kills that family, and then disappears for 20 years, comes back, gets fostered by another family, and then decides at that moment that it's time to seek revenge on her sister.
But only after she's killed at least 4 other people.
As you do. I don't understand this plot.
No.
It's like they wanted the stupid reveal, and so they did it without it making any kind of actual sense.
Exactly.
Yes.
I don't. Do you have any theories, Sarah Jane?
I do not.
Can you help us out? Okay.
I do
not. We're just doomed then. We're as doomed as the people in this movie.
Yes. I was begging for Krampus to show up in my living room. Just take me out.
so that your face could melt, but then you are burning on the inside.
Whichever way was going to take me quickest.
There you go.
I didn't understand at the beginning of the movie because they showed how one person was just turned to ashes.
Yes.
And then they had a stretcher with a body on it. And I was like, how? What?
They put the two ashes together and it makes a full body.
Okay.
Don't you know that's not that science?
I liked how they had Zoe parked at the back of that ambulance and decided to just wheel the body right in front of her as she's having, I don't know, Starbucks or whatever. It's like, yeah. And I thought, why would you walk her dead parent in front of you?
The two things that I found interesting about the movie were the fact that A, they did get that ambulance that they rented, B, that they rented like an entire wing of this hospital, and then C, realized after doing those two things that they had no money for the visual effects works whatsoever.
Right. Well, that's where let's make this a Krampus at the last minute comes in.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
What's going to be cheap?
And I think you can see a version of this that it's just Zoe going crazy and burning people alive with magical spirit powers, because that makes sense when we see her in the house at the end of the movie. That makes sense why she's there, because that's maybe a holdover from the previous version of the film.
So as if and I guess they kind of, you could kind of interpret the scene towards the end when the car crashes and you see Krampus standing behind her with his like hands on her, as maybe there is no Krampus, and when you're seeing the Krampus, it's just her manifestation.
Yeah. I don't.
If that makes sense.
I don't even.
Like Krampus is never really there, but it's more so since she is a spirit. It's the guise that everybody's seeing her as, even though it's just Zoe doing all the work.
Yeah. Well, there's no Christmas in this movie. There's zero Christmas.
Except for the very beginning when they're sitting in the orange room, which I took to be like the 70s, but I guess I was wrong if it was the 90s.
It was 92. So
yeah, my house did not look like that in 92.
and then you've got Santa at the very end giving out the tissue boxes.
Yeah, but that's it.
But there was a whole, like a 30-minute stretch where Krampus was like not mentioned or not even on the screen.
No. Well, I literally have a note that says we're into an hour of the movie and nothing's really happened.
Exactly.
And it's, I'm not, Scott, you said that you can see a version of this working. So why?
Oh, did I?
Well, of Krampus working, so maybe I'm going to take that as a how I'd fix it, so that we don't have to spend more time talking about that. But did either one of you have a ray of sunshine, a moment that was so ridiculous or enjoyable or over the top that you can kind of embrace it?
Let me think. You go ahead, Scott.
I, as much as I think it is ridiculous and agree with everything you said, I enjoyed the orange opening scene, especially because like the I guess young Rachel goes up to her grandmother, who's just casually, like, she didn't pull this book down to read it to her. She's just casually reading this Krampus children's book. It's like, what book is that, Grandma? Oh, no, you don't read this. This is okay, I'll tell you.
It's a scary story.
I have a note that says, I love it that Nana explains who Krampus is.
Yeah. And then, like, apparently just leaves the book around so they can play with it and summon the damn demon.
Because she grabbed it, remember? Because the girl says to Rachel later on, you're not supposed to touch Grandma's stuff.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's very irresponsible, Grandma. I don't understand why she's just casually reading a book about Krampus.
Grandma, it's July. Did you think of one, Sarah Jane?
I don't know if there was something. I'll take your ray of sunshine in a different light, and I think the actual makeup effects were okay for what this movie was. They were. I even wrote that down.
Like the face melting?
Yeah, and the ashes, like the glasses were melting. I thought, well, okay, you're trying. So all of that, when he grabs her heart out, I thought that was all right.
Yes.
That's my one ray of sunshine, that they actually, someone kind of knew what they were doing. They got their little effects book that they've had since the 70s. We're like, oh, that's how we do it. Okay, go.
So somebody get Uncorked Entertainment on the line and let them know that we've got a blurb for them. And the blurb is visual effects, kind of all right.
Only the practical ones, though.
Yes, practical, not CGI.
Sorry. Practical effects, ... Kind of all right. There you go.
Scott Daly says, liked the orange room.
Oh, aggressive use of framing.
I actually wrote down the name of the bar because I thought it was funny. The Seamus McCaffrey's. Who got a thank you at the end? Yes.
Nice.
I pay attention to that stuff because I'm weird.
Even though Krampus is completely CGI, there is a character who is credited as...
No.
Yes, there's a person credited as Krampus at the end of it. I'm like, is it the dude that they're like, okay, just stand there. That's where we're going to put the effects. Stand there. All right, we got it.
That's awesome.
Was it a Conroy?
I don't know. Strangely enough, it was probably Doug Jones. For those few people out there who don't know who Doug Jones is, look him up. He was in the Hellboy movies. He's in The Shape of Water. He's in everything, basically. He's even been in really crappy movies that were like, we need a man in a suit. Which this movie,
skinny man in a suit.
This movie would have been a bit better probably if it had a man in the suit, I think.
Yes, go Kaiju.
Yeah, they should have just gone practical.
Yeah.
Krampus.
I'm with you.
The money that you're spending on face melting, it's, just have their body be ash and create a creature, which it looks like they did for the second one. So
is it okay?
Ooh.
Is it okay that I admit when you said Doug Jones, I thought you were talking about the guy running for Senate in Alabama, and I was very confused. I was extremely confused.
There was a silence on your side. I did too for 1 second, but then I thought, no, we're talking about movies. So
I was like, Adrian, where are you going with this?
No.
People probably wonder why I laughed so hard.
But speaking of elections, it's time to vote. Hey, no, okay. Well,
that was good. That was good. It was good.
Yeah, that's right. Scott, we're gonna start with you. Guilty or not guilty?
Yeah, it's guilty, man. Like we've said so many times, I don't care if your movie's cheap. Like, even with not much money, you can do something interesting, and this is not the movie that did it.
Yes, I agree. Sarah Jane, what's your vote?
Can I just say something really quick, and then I will vote? I watch, like, 70% of the things that I watch are really bad stuff, like from the 60s, 50s, and I love bad movies. I do. Like, Manos Hands of Fate is not the worst movie ever made. I love that movie because I can see exactly what that guy was trying to do. It's all there on the screen, and it's amazing. So you can do things. Robot Monster is great. So you can do things, like you said, Scott, which are cheaply made but fun to watch. This was not fun to watch. This was more of a torture. And I don't know if it's just because it's a modern movie. Maybe in 20 years someone will watch this and then they'll have the same opinion I do. It's like, oh, it's all right. So guilty.
Awesome. And that's part of the reason why I did want to have Sarah Jane on, because she's somebody who is able to sit through lots of these types of films. And there was a point that I was watching it and I'm like, that's a question that I definitely want to ask her. And you did bring it up, that when you said you're not sure if it's because it's a modern movie. And I think that it has something to do with the conversion to digital and the way that digital looks and the inherent cheapness that comes from doing bad digital work. And that in the old days, because film is all you had, and yeah, you had different grades and you had, 8 millimeters, 16, 35, whatever they could get their hands on. But there's something when you're watching something like Manos Hands of Fate, any of the MST3K movies, any number of bad Italian films from the 70s and 80s, that there's a difference when you watch those bad movies and when you watch a bad movie from, the start of cheap DV handquarters or camcorders to the digital cameras that people are able to use nowadays.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
I'm with you also. I like
Okay.
some stuff from the VHS stuff from the 80s.
Yeah.
But, we kind of went back and are moving forward. So we're just in the 80s bad movies. So I dread when we move into the 90s and the 2000s. So hopefully I'll be dead by then because there's so many movies to watch.
Even when it comes to like some of the VHS in the and for like the 90s, whether it be DTV or just people who were making home movies that they were trying to pass off as actual films, you still have that tangible quality to them, that you have that disconnect because you're able to watch it and the cheapness is on a different type of cheapness because of what you're working with. Whereas nowadays with going to digital and that desire to have everything that's digital look real or be clean causes it to look even cheaper, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like digital's cheaper but harder to get good looking, and that's why you make something that ends up looking kind of like a porn because that's exactly what it is. It's just cheap digital photography that sucks. Now
I'm really worried that that's actually what Krampus Unleashed is, and that's why it has its subtitle. So I'm a little wary of watching it. Sarah Jane, where can the good people find you online?
I am over on Twitter, and my handle is @fookthis, FOOKTHIS. I'm sure everybody says fook this, but it's like the English fook. I've had that screen name because I'm pretty old, since AOL time. So I kept it all through the years in case somebody wanted to find me. But I remember going to parties and people would yell "fuck" across the room. So it's just, hey, that's me. So
there you go.
That's awesome.
And then also Talk Film Society, of course. Want to put the plug in there.
I'm on Letterboxd also as Fook This if you want to find me there. I write reviews, not as much as I used to, but I'll throw an occasional one in there. But you can find links to all of my. I have some lists for each of my columns, so then you can just click on the movie and get the link that way.
There's lots of good stuff on there. Scott, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter as well @ScottDaily85. You can also find all the other podcasts and stuff we do at dailyplanetfilms.com. That's my name.
Was there a new We Got Worm?
Yeah, yesterday. We've got two arcs left and we're almost done. It's crazy.
There you go. And then you lose all the Patreon people, right?
No, we're going on to the sequel because it just started up.
Oh, that's perfect. Look at that. There you go. Saved by, a writer who actually keeps to a schedule.
Yes.
Well, I don't know those people.
I can easily be found on Twitter @Adrian Torres. At the same time, you can find my writing over at Boom Howdy. I don't have anything this week because this is kind of when you get into like November, December, it's kind of a weird jump because you have extra movies come out at the end of November when Thanksgiving is, and then there's kind of like a lull week because they still want those movies to still make even more money before anything tries to fight them. So you get a lull of like 1 to 2 weeks, and even next week there's not a ton that comes out, but the biggest thing that comes out on the 8th is Disaster Artist, and then everything goes downhill with just tons of movies, starting with what's it called, The Last Jedi, and then there's like at least 5 to 6 movies until the end of the year. So I'll have more stuff that's on there. But if you go to Boom Howdy, there was 3 from last week. There was Coco, and there was Last Flag Flying, and 3 billboards. And unfortunately, I put up 3 billboards on, like, I think it was Wednesday of last week, and was really excited about it, was really proud of the review. And then that's when all the backlash started. And I was like, oh, that's just my luck. I have something that I'm proud of that I can't really tell people about because the internet's angry. So,
I have thoughts on that backlash, but I won't talk about them here.
That's for a later time.
Yeah.
Sarah Jane, I want to thank you so much for coming on and being a guest as we we do this rollouts and bring all these people on. So it means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, thanks so much for
I
coming.
had a great time. You guys are awesome.
Well,
and I'll be back if you want me back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Down the line, we'll try to find maybe something a little bit older to watch, more in your wheelhouse. I'll have to ask and be like, have you seen this one? Yeah, okay, we'll skip that. Have you seen this one? Yeah, okay, we'll skip that. We'll try to find something that works, but we'll not stay within this century.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of movies, so
no more Krampus.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I don't want to. No. I liked Krampus before he got popular. Like the first Krampus. I wrote that down. I said it used to be cool. I like that first album, but after that it was derivative. That was my note.
We will be back next week with another episode. I don't know what it is yet because I haven't heard back from Jill. But she's still coming on as far as I know. Hopefully she's not mad at me that I will not be going to her Slaughter movie night, which is a cool, like slightly underground film thing that she hosts in Kansas City. She does it on the first Monday of every month, and I'm hosting a movie at the Alamo that night, so I'm not able to go. So we should have her on as a guest.
I'm so jealous of you having the Alamo access.
It's nice. I'm spending, and you got caught up in the little confusion with Brock last night when he mentioned that there was another podcast what I was going to be on, but
yes, I was
didn't mention that it was the same night. But that's on. If you're in Kansas City, come out to the Alamo on Saturday because I will be there for 2 different movies. I'm doing entertaining small children in the morning by dressing as a train conductor for the Polar Express. Because Santa's going to be there.
Sketchy.
Oh my god.
Sketchy.
Well, no, Santa's going to be there. Okay, so
that makes it less sketchy. It's worse.
I don't want to see any darknet entries from you, Adrian.
No.
I haven't met this Santa, so I can't say. I don't know what he's filled his sack with. No, I won't.
Oh, that's too far.
And then there's a showing of they're doing a movie party for Elf afterwards.
Nice. So, I'm moving back to Austin, so then I'll have access to all the Alamo I want.
Everybody's going back to Austin. I didn't know that you were going back too. Jeez.
Yeah, in March.
Wow, that's gonna be perfect. We will have to. I'll be there in March, depending when you guys are there. We might have to meet up. So
for South by Southwest.
Yes, I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to try to be there get in there before all the mayhem.
Well, that's understandable. So maybe we'll try to get together. I know that I'm going to try to track down Rocky when I'm out there too.
Me too. Rocky, if you're listening, I love you, Rocky, and I can't wait to meet you.
He's a joy. He's a joy. That's all I can say. I've only met him at Fantastic Fest, but he's a joy. But yes, so everybody listen in next week. Maybe we'll do heart beeps. What does that sound? Does that sound good, Scott?
I just don't even believe you anymore.
Oh, you're supposed to have my back.
No, we're definitely doing heart beeps. We're definitely not lying.
And you totally pulled a Krampus on me.
No, look, I'm being super sincere right now. Super sincere.
Well, tune in next week and find out. Until then, goodbye.
I don't need no predictions. I don't listen to fate. I'm a cold soul survivor, and I've been known not to wait. In a land of confusion, no one's ready to face. If it's love that you're after, then you're in the wrong place, baby.